Hello, everyone. Welcome inside yet another edition of the Wrap-Up. Dan Myers, Nick Bugler, happy to have you along with us for this intense edition of the Wrap-Up. Dan, it's intense. Do you know why?
Oh, how many? Well, tell me.
I don't. I was hoping you'd have the answer.
Okay.
But we're going to jump right on into it with some NFL playoffs. We got the Super Bowl matchup, folks. We got it. It's here. 2 weeks away. The AFC champion Denver Broncos, Peyton Manning, getting one last chance to prove his legacy and just get her done, so to speak. They knock off Tom Brady and the Patriots 20-18 in quite a thriller. Dan, I'm going to get your thoughts on this real fast, and then I'm going to bring up a point that maybe just a little bit about that game. So, Dan, take her away. Eh?
Well, it felt like it was a lot worse than it really was. To me, it was a statement game, and it was Manning just saying, "Hey, listen, I'm here. I'm not going away. I'm not going anywhere yet." I was really impressed. And like I said last week, I thought he was more of a fossil of himself, but man, did he throw he threw the wrench at me because it hit me right in the face because that was incredible. It was definitely he's not ready to sit in his rocker yet. I know the big rumor is he's going to call it quits after this Super Bowl, but it looked great, and then that defense just had Brady's number all day. Brady just couldn't. It was really embarrassing. It's definitely not his finest moment, and you can see that in his face walking off the field. But yeah, what an incredible game. I was really shocked, and I'm definitely eating my words.
I don't think this was necessarily the big battle of Brady and Manning because Brady was running for his life all game. They were throwing all the stops at him. The offensive line couldn't block anything. And Manning really didn't dominate the game. He had 2 touchdown passes, both to Owen Daniels. But I just don't think it was Manning. I think the defense won them that game. Yeah. Not even close. But the point in that game that I want to get to is the missed extra point on the Patriots on their first touchdown. They move the extra point back at the beginning of this year. It would now be a 33-yard field goal for the extra point, and they did it for more excitement in the game. But to me, in this game, it almost made it less exciting because if that field goal is good, this game's in overtime. And to me, I think an AFC championship game in overtime, Peyton versus Brady, is much more exciting than, he shanked an extra point in the first quarter of a game. Mm-hmm. To me, I think the extra point is meant to be like, tack it on. If it's an extra point from the 33-yard line, I think it should count for more than 1 point. Because you can kick a 20-yard field goal and it's 3 points. So I think either move it up or make it different because this cost the Patriots a shot, allegedly, to be in the Super Bowl. But, okay, I'm not blaming that at all on it. I'm just saying it's food for thought to think about, like, hey, if that were the Lions and you miss an extra point, A, they'd be going after Prater's head. But B, like, for more excitement, I think a overtime playoff game is much more exciting than a shanked extra point.
Oh, absolutely. Could you imagine if that game actually went overtime? And I was actually thinking about that too, is when he did miss that, I'm like, is this going to come back and bite them? All right? Is it good? And you never know. And that's something that could really get in the kicker's head. Fortunately, he was whatever. But it was that could be something that can come and bite you back in the end, and it did for the most part. There's always that what if game, but yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's what would you do if that was the Lions in there? I mean, it would be horrible.
First off, I'd wake up from my dream because the Lions would be there. Then the nightcap. Mm-hmm. I thought this was going to be a much better game than the opening game. It was not. The Panthers just dominated from the beginning to end. Carson Palmer looked like I was going to make a bad taste joke there, but I'm not going to. He looked horrible. Carson Palmer was dreadful. I saw a thing that said you can take Carson Palmer out of the Bengals and Raiders, but you can't take the Bengals and Raiders out of Carson Palmer. Funny, whoever made that. Panthers roll behind Cam Newton, 49-15 in that game. This game was never close. Panthers just nothing could stop them. And to me, I would rather see the Patriots in the Super Bowl against the Panthers because I think the Panthers are going to roll the Broncos. I'll be rooting for Peyton and the Broncos because I'm not the biggest Carolina Panther fan. They're bandwagons for days. I don't know, all of a sudden they're good this year. And just like when Seattle became good, all these people, diehard Seahawks fans here in the Detroit area, all of a sudden
it's funny where all those jerseys come from.
Weird.
Yeah.
Seahawks with Matt Hasselbeck had no fans. And just the same thing, all of a sudden all these Cam Newton fans come out. All these Carolina Panther fans come out. can you even name 5 players on the team? No, you know Cam Newton. You can't name me 2 running backs, 2 receivers, maybe a Greg Olsen, but and it's their defense that does it. And these bandwagon fans can't name anyone on the defense, and it's the number 1 defense in the league. Bandwagon, go home. I hope Peyton wins.
Yeah. That was an incredible game. I think my hero of the night though was the owner. When they were doing that post-game interview, I felt like I was listening to Colonel Sanders' chicken guy from KFC. Oh, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really proud of our organization. But going back, the Cardinals, that was just I did feel bad for Palmer. He did have a terrific season, but just the reliability of him was, especially in that second half, it's pretty ridiculous. But
in the past 2 seasons that Carson Palmer in games he has started, he was 20-3 going into last night's game. So 20-4 is a pretty damn good record, if you ask me. But highlight of the night for me, Luke Kuechly gets a pick 6 in the 4th quarter. He's running now behind the end zone after already scoring, and a guy comes flipping out of the stands and lands on the ground. You do you, guy. You do you. You're headed to the Super Bowl.
Their own, yeah.
Good for you. And Luke Kuechly goes over, asks him if he's all right. The only thing I think was hurt was his pride because he spilled a $10.50 beer all over himself and possibly security in Luke Kuechly as well. But you're headed to Super Bowl 50, drunk guy, in Carolina. So you go. You go. Who do you got in the Super Bowl, Dan?
Oh, man. I definitely want to go with the Panthers. I think their defense is strong. I like Cam Newton. But then again, I think it's going to be a good defensive battle, too. I mean, just watching them tear apart the Patriots was great, and tear apart Tom Brady. But I feel like the momentum's going with the Panthers, so I got to go with them.
Yeah, if it were up to me right now, I'd pick Carolina as well. Though I don't want them to win. It's a defensive battle, and I just think Peyton Manning, I hate to say this to all you Manning fans, but he's just a little too old. When he gets hit, I'm fearful that he might not get up.
Yeah.
He's just, you can see just when he walks, he's just slow. And I mean, he had a 10-yard run yesterday. That was awesome for him. I think it's funny if he rushes at all because it's funny to watch him go trunching through with the ball. But yeah, I think this game won't be close. The line opened up at 4-point favorites for Carolina, and I think it'll just grow from there. If Carolina's too much, this is their year. And hate to say it, but I think they got Super Bowl 50.
Yeah, watching that game, watching Manning come out of the field, though, he did look determined. I think if he gets in some sort of a rhythm during the game, we will have a very close game. I think he's either going to be on or he's going to be off. There's going to be no in between. I don't think it's going to be a close battle, but unless he finds a rhythm, and I'm right there.
For
with
that,
you.
I think the key point for Denver is their offensive line. They got to protect Peyton Manning to allow him to get into that rhythm. If they can do that, and they got to get Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders involved. They combined only had 8 catches, and Demaryius Thomas only had 2, and he's their number 1 guy. So, good job by the Patriots to shut them down. Ryan shut down Demaryius Thomas very well, held him to just 2 catches. So, that's big. Denver's got to be all in for this game to win, and you never know. It's Peyton Manning, Cam Newton, maybe more unproven, although he's the MVP of this league, no doubt. So we'll see. Should be a good defensive Super Bowl. Exciting to see. But let's talk hockey. Dan, I know you love to talk hockey. I love to talk hockey. The Red Wings. They've been struggling at Joe Louis Arena. They have won just 1 of their last 8 home games. And Joe Louis is supposed to be the comfy confines, best fans in the land. It's hockey town. It hasn't been warm to them of late. Just 1 win in a possible 8 games. Struggles, and they can't put the puck in the net. They're averaging 1.7 goals per game in their last 10, and that's not going to win you anything.
No, it's not. Yeah, especially the game against Anaheim was just nothing was going their way. The calls weren't going their way. Some of the shots weren't going their way. It was brutal, and frustrating too. Especially at home when it's almost like going back to football. It's like taking advantage of Denver's the elevation thing. They're used to playing in that, as the other team's not. The Wings, they have their board system, and I feel the Joe's been there for a while. Coaches are obviously playing more with the boards now, but it's our home ice. We should, like you said, with the Wings, it shouldn't be an issue. It should be almost a given, especially a team like Anaheim. And it was really frustrating to watch. And something's definitely got to change. Fortunately, they do have a break coming up.
The goalie who gets burned by the boards at Joe Louis Arena the most is Jimmy Howard. They will clear the puck into the zone. Jimmy Howard will get burned because he doesn't go play the puck. He lets it bounce for a big rebound and he gets burned. And I think that is BS because you know the rink better than anyone else.
Right.
And to me, I think Peter Mrazek has taken the starting job and he's run with it. Jimmy Howard has started just one of a prior 14 games before Sunday, so now that's 2 and 15. Peter Mrazek hasn't given up more than 3 goals in a game dating back to November. So that's pretty impressive to me. But the trade deadline's right around the corner, Dan, and they need some spark up front. And I don't know what you think, but they got to make a move.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, they definitely do. It's just what are they willing to give up and what are they willing to bid with, And I would love to see someone strong up front, clear out some of these guys in the back with the defense, and we'll see what they do.
Yeah, really, the biggest rumor, obviously we touched on it a little bit last week, was Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Drouin. Steven Stamkos, he's a proven 40-goal scorer in this league, plays for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Steve Yzerman's their GM, real good relationship with Kenny Holland. There's a high price on Stamkos, and he's a guy who's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. I wouldn't part ways with these big-name guys that they want first-round picks unless you can lock him up long-term. And Jonathan Drouin's another guy that they're throwing in, obviously the phenom, 20 years old. But to me, I say scratch Jonathan Drouin. He's got problems off the ice. Last week, he didn't show up to one of his AHL games because he's angry with how things are going. Just doesn't show up to the game for the Syracuse Crunch last Wednesday. So to me, that's a prima donna problem. That's a kind of a cancer to your team. Someone that you don't want. Yeah, no, that's not the Red Wing way. The Red Wings are all about class. Everyone's on board with it as well. And to me, Jonathan Drouin's a no-go, but he's on the list. People are talking about him. So now that the big-name guys that everyone's been talking about are out of the way, I've got a couple guys who are unrestricted free agents at the end of the year and could be possible targets for the Red Wings going forward. And I'm going to start with a guy in the blue line who also is a very offensive defenseman. Physical, he's a brute. He plays in Winnipeg. It's Dustin Byfuglien. 31 years old. He's known as kind of a dirty player, but he tries to keep it between the rules and he bends them as much as he can. He's had some suspensions this year, but he can put the puck in the net. He can play in front of the net on power plays. He's a big body. He's got a great shot, and he's a shutdown defenseman as well. And what the Wings need that more than anything. Their defense, although Peter Mrazek's been good, their defense hasn't been good, but the numbers are kind of crooked because they're faulty. Because their defense is getting bailed out by Peter Mrazek, so their goals against isn't that high, but at the same time they're getting walked. Brendan Smith's getting walked. Ericsson's getting walked. Kronwall's now out 2 to 4 weeks. Marchenko's stepped up nicely, but I think Byfuglien would be a great fit back there.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked him when he played for Chicago. I thought he was obviously in his prime. But yeah, someone, what's going to be nice too is he's going to take care of business in front of net. He's not going to get pushed around like Smith does, in which I'm always yelling at the screen. Brendan, get them out of there. And they're just, especially at the game over the weekend against Anaheim, those guys just had the size and they were just, dominating the net. And it was just like, take care of these guys, clear them out. You're going to get a goalie hurt if they keep poking at him like that or whatnot. So it was great to see his size, his strength, and his confidence in front of that net.
The Wings' defense, to me, summed up in one word, is soft.
Yes.
They get pushed around so much in front of the net. They don't clear guys out. And the only guy who's willing to get his face beat in every night is Abdelkader.
Right.
And that's true. He doesn't win many battles. He gets his helmet knocked off, his face kicked in. But he's back out there for more. He's like that little annoying Shih Tzu dog that you have that bites your ankles and so that's Abdelkader to me. But let's go back to the list. Don't even get me started on that. We're going to go back to another possible cat, Eric Stahl. Bigger name guy, 31 years old as well, playing right now for the Carolina Hurricanes, unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. Carolina, though, they might be buyers now because they're closest to the playoffs they've been in years. And Eric Stahl's having a monster year. Now he's playing with his brother Jordan Stahl. They've got Justin Falk back on the D, and they're looking good right now. Carolina's won a couple games in a row here to put them just 2 points out of the playoffs. But Eric Stahl will be a good center iceman to have. He can play on the second line because obviously Zetterberg and Datsuk are aging. Their age is starting to show, and you need to get these younger guys in. I'm not saying 31 is young in the NHL, but it's definitely an upgrade. And just to move forward this year, I think the Wings are 1 to 2 players away, and Eric Stahl might be 1.5. I think he's having a monster year, and he's been good on the power play as well this year, and that's somewhere the Red Wings have struggled this year is on the power play.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to improve on that. And that'd be a great pickup with Stahl. Do I see it happening? Realistically, probably not. But if there's one guy that is on the market and that will actually be able to pick up, it would probably be him. And I think he would just mesh perfectly with his team. I mean, he's just watching him play, as you could see him in a Red Wings uniform or Red Wings sweater. He definitely has that charisma, that swagger about him as far as on ice presence and performance. So I would love to see him, but realistically, I can't see him coming here.
No, and another guy who might be unrealistic is Andrew Ladd in Winnipeg, although he's having a great year as well. He's only 30 years old, but he's got a letter on his jersey in Winnipeg, and they're likely going to want to re-sign him. Him and Blake Wheeler and Jacob Trouba are the guys that they kind of mold their team around. And I think Andrew Ladd's an excellent player. He's a good forward. He can put the puck in the net. He kills penalties as well, which a lot of star players don't do that. And I think Andrew Ladd is he's a world-class talent, and I think he'd be great. But I think Winnipeg would want a little bit too much for a guy of his caliber. I don't think he's quite on the top pedestal with a guy like Steven Stamkos, but I think he's a guy who they would want a lot for. And another guy who's also a little bit unrealistic is Kyle Okposo from the New York Islanders. He's the youngest on the list other than the Tampa Bay Crew, but 28 years old. The reason I think it's unrealistic, and I think they're going to hold on to him through the end of the season, is because they're in the playoff hunt. They're third seed right now in their division, and they're going back and forth between them and New York Rangers for who is second. They're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to make a run like they always do with John Tavares, Anders Lee, Brock Nielsen. I mean, they got a great crew. Their goaltending's a little suspect. We'll see. The Red Wings play them this week. Jaro Halak, obviously, is seen as better days, but we're going to see them firsthand on Monday night. And Kyle Okposo is a great talent as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I don't really see them coming. They're going to try and hold on to as many people as possible. But then again, I do like the idea of Stamkos coming here. Going back to that, but it's just I'd love to be a fly on the wall as far as that negotiating, phone call. We'll see how it goes. But I wouldn't mind getting rid of a lot of players for Stamkos. I'd love to see him come here.
Yeah, we've got a lot of depth. And Jimmy Howard is definitely on the trade block now. Although he has a hefty contract, not many teams are going to want to pick that up to be a backup most places, because a lot of these teams that you're trading to are kind of set in goaltender-wise, although maybe Carolina's a team that's not sure where they are set on goalie. Eddie Lack's been playing well, and obviously you still have Cam Ward, who's aging. I think Jimmy Howard could be a good fit there if Eric Stahl were to come here, just saying. Gus Nyquist is a guy. Obviously, you're going to have to pick between Nyquist and Tatar. And to me, I think Nyquist, A, has more trade value, and B, I would be more happy to see him go. I'm not saying I'd be happy, but out of the two, I would rather see Nyquist go than Thomas Tatar.
Yeah, absolutely. You could stomach it easier. Yeah, that could be a great package deal. Nyquist, Howard, and then the big thing is, are we going to be getting rid of Marchenko and Mantha? I mean, we've held on to Anthony Mantha for so long, and we've sort of missed out on a couple of opportunities where you kind of wish you would have dealt him. But Steve Eisman really likes him.
Steve Eisman likes Gus Nyquist a lot as well.
Right.
And we know how much he loves draft picks. The rumor is a first-round pick this year, a first-round pick next year. I think that's hefty, but I heard an interview with Kurt Malpe, who's the right-hand man to Kenny Holland, and I think he said you got to evaluate to see where you're going to be picking in the draft and see who's available. Obviously, they got lucky on Dylan Larkin, picking him 10th overall. He's a rare breed. You're not going to have guys like that always there. Oh, a first-round pick, you could get a Jack Eichel, you could get a Dylan Larkin. It's not going to work like that. And do I think there's a lot of great players out there? Yeah, but I think you would rather have a proven guy than have to wait and mold another guy when you can get it via trade, like the Red Wings have done so much in the past. Ken Holland's a mastermind. I think he's not going to do the wrong thing. They're going to make a move, and they're going to get, I think, a big-name guy at the trade deadline because there's so much depth. We have the AHL, the best team around.
Yeah.
The Griffins, there's just an plethora of talent. You've got Mantha, you've got Athanasiou. you've got Martin Ferk, who's down there. He's leading the team. You've got Timu Pulkkinen still, who they've been holding on to. You've got Jared Coro. You've got Tom McCullum, obviously Jimmy Howard, Jakob Kindle's trade bait, Marchenko. The list goes on. And your draft picks. So I threw Darren Helm's name on there as well. He might be a guy whose name is bigger around here, but he really hasn't produced. And he's a good penalty killer. He's got speed, and that's attractive to any organization. A guy who can kill penalties and win battles with his feet. Although he has stayed healthy for the most part this year, and that's rare for him. I'd say you trade him now while you can and see what you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, toss them all out there. Throw a lot of players at him. I mean, I think, like you were saying, he's more. Some of these names are more popular around the local area, but if you were to go around the league, you might not hear too much about him. It might not be as attractive. But yeah, I would toss as many people as you could. Add a Stamkos, maybe add a Stahl, see what they want. But like you said, with the depth that we have in Grand Rapids, that's really going to help us in the long run. And if you like him or not, Kenny Holland is doing a great job keeping these guys in Grand Rapids, keeping them trained, keeping them fresh and hungry, and I think that's great.
And another thing that they said they're not going to do is make a trade just to make a trade.
Right.
They're only going to make a trade if they will upgrade at the position. Obviously, they want to upgrade top 6 and top 4D. And, well, anywhere defense, really, because their bottom pair is Mike Green and Brendan Smith. Mm-hmm. Mike Green's an elite defenseman, although he hasn't really showed it much this year. I still think he's one of the best in the league, offensive defenseman, right-handed shot. And two other bigger names that are UFAs, unrestricted free agents, at the end of this year are Brent Seabrook in Chicago and Eric Johnson in Colorado. Both excellent defensemen, can put the puck in the net, shut down. Johnson's more likely to get moved because Colorado is kind of fallen out a little bit rather than Brent Seabrook. If they're going to run for a cup, they're going to hold on to their unrestricted free agents like they did last year with the Brad Richards and guys along those lines. They got Jonathan Taves to extend his contract. So these guys aren't guys that are going to get moved likely, but still bigger names that are going to get offers. Their GMs are going to get, Sam Bowman's going to get offers for Brent Seabrook. And who knows, we've seen Chicago, when they're in the hunt, move players at the deadline to get guys, say they need someone on the third line. They'll get rid of a big asset and just keep building for the future because they're what I would call the closest thing to a dynasty in the NHL right now. They've won 14 of their last 16 games. Patrick Kane's a freak of nature. Chicago's a good team. But one last thing on the Red Wings is they called up Eric Tangradi and Nick Jensen from the AHL affiliate Grand Rapids Griffins this weekend and cleared waivers was Joachim Anderson. He has been assigned to Grand Rapids, which to me that's fine. I think that guy's just kind of skates around and he's kind of one of those guys that are, to me, not a big Anderson fan. Go down, have fun, AAA, AHL. Have fun, be a minor league all-star, do what you do. But Eric Tangradi's likely going to play against the Islanders Monday. Nick Jensen, he might play. He's been their number one defenseman down there since Xavier Ouellette's been hurt. These are two guys. I've been waiting to see Tangradi since preseason. I think he's a gritty guy, big guy. He's got 15 goals in Grand Rapids. He can put the puck in the net. He's going to fight guys, and that's what we need. We need a guy that's going to stick up for our star players like Larkin, who's been getting pushed around a lot. Obviously, he lost his tooth on Friday night, broke his nose, all in the same play, and then scored on his very next shift. So Larkin just continues to impress. To me, it leads the way for the Calder Trophy, Rookie of the Year. I don't know if you have any thoughts on any of that, but I've just been really impressed with what I've seen.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I like what you said as far as we need the protection of these players. I mean, and then you look at the game Saturday night, and you saw the check from behind obviously went right into the back of the net. Got a nice gash right inside of his face. So he's really becoming that stereotypical look of a hockey player by the end of the time. By the end of this year, he's definitely going to have some upgrades. But yeah, absolutely, we need somebody that's going to protect these guys and not let them get pushed around. And like you said, with an Abdelkader, you can only do so much. I mean, he doesn't win fights. So if you're going to go into a fight with somebody, you're going to mess around with their stars. Oh, Abdelkader's what's coming at me? Oh, no big deal. All right, here we go. But
you need those big guys like Quincy or Erickson to step up and actually pound somebody.
Use your size.
Erickson's done it in the past, but I just like to see it more. If you're going to lose battles defensively, at least do us a favor and drop the mitts. Well, let's switch to the Tigers. Do we want to switch to the Tigers? They made a big signing this past week. They filled their void at left field. Many thought Yoenis Cespedes was close to a deal. Incorrect. He signs a big deal in New York to stay with the Mets, and the Tigers signed Justin Upton. They threw $132.75 million at him over the course of, was it 6 years, I believe?
Yes, 6.
And to me, not wowed by this deal at all. He's a career .271 hitter. He's only hit over 30 home runs once in his 9 seasons, only had over 100 RBI once in his 9 seasons, and only hit over 280 twice in his 9 seasons. To me, $22.5 million a year for a guy who will average you 20 to 25 homers, 70 to 80 RBIs, and will hit about 260. To me, you're paying him what you would pay Yoenis Cespedes, who's going to hit you 330 homers and 120 RBIs. Mind you, Justin Upton is a liability in the outfield. He's terrible. Yeah. And I just think they overpaid for this. Illich is just pulling out all his stops. He wants to win. He sees this name, Justin Upton, throw the money at him. They're now well over the luxury tax, and now I say you're already over it. Keep going.
Right.
You need power. I mean, don't get me wrong. On paper, this lineup looks sweet.
Yeah.
Projected, I say you have Kinsler leading off. I'd put Upton at 2, although he strikes out a ton. You need that protection for Miguel Cabrera. You got a guy in front of him that allegedly can hit. Then Cabrera at 3. You got JD probably cleaning up. I'd rather see JD there than Victor this year. You put Victor in at 5. And then you've got Castellanos. You could throw Cameron Maybin in there. James McCann. Iglesias. I mean, there's pop there, but it's still just a struggle. I mean, I just think they're too name happy rather than production happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Mr. Illich was saying, he's going to throw. He's all in. He wants to win a championship. He wants to win a pennant. He needs it. And yeah, I think I would keep him towards the bottom of the lineup, or also like at the beginning of the lineup. There's at the end of the year last year, it was pretty impressive of what we had at the end of the lineup, and so I think that's a great spot for him. Also, you do need someone to help out Cabrera, but for sure, yeah, I'm not really happy with that. I mean, you can look at the stat sheet; he's 3-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger, and stuff like that.
But look where he's played.
But yeah,
who else from the Padres is gonna be an All-Star if every team has to be represented? Yeah, I think those numbers are misleading.
Exactly.
100%.
Yep, and that's exactly where I was going with it. Yeah, you look on paper, all right, but when you actually look into it, every team does need a representative from the All-Star game. So what is that really saying anymore? But you're right, I'm not too impressed. I was kind of hoping we'd go with Cespedes.
And those numbers are National League numbers, and it's proven your numbers go down when you switch from National to American League, unless you're Miguel Cabrera, obviously. He's just a freak. But those numbers are National League numbers. Now he's going to be facing American League hitting, or pitching rather, and I don't know. I hope that he works out. I'm not crazy about the signing. We'll have to see. Obviously, the team looks good on paper, but that's why you play the game. They started 9-0 last year.
Yeah.
Well, they played Children of the Blind, so Minnesota Twins. But I mean, we'll have to see, and that's the beauty of it. 162 games is a lot, and any team could get hot, but
they
over the course
for more than 162 games. If you haven't seen the TV ads yet, 162 plus games.
Plus. Why? Because spring training,
Yeah, right.
playoffs, practice. I don't know, but we're gonna have to get back to the drawing board and hit some practice ourselves for next week's edition of the Wrap Up. Hopefully, we'll have more on you. We'll see maybe some Pro Bowl stuff. Huh? Who doesn't love some Pro Bowl? And maybe the Red Wings will win their only game they played. Oh, and the NHL All-Star Games next week. We'll have you covered, folks. Don't worry. Dan Myers will be reporting live from right next to me. So that's all you need. Dan Myers.
Is there a trip I'm not sure about? All right.
Yeah, I'm paying first class to sit right next to me. Nick Buckler, thanks for watching yet another edition of the Wrap Up.